All right, guys, you're here with Josh Thompson. It's been a long week, man. I've been traveling all around. We did the Connecticut Bellator show last Friday night, and then we did the New York show at in Long Island, which was great too, which was Fedor and Chael. The Connecticut show was Ryan Bader versus Matt Mitrione. So, man, I got a lot on my mind. So there's a lot going on. So what are we talking about first, Dave?
We can jump into the heavyweight since that was probably one of the bigger announcements.
Okay.
So DC got the beast, Derrick Lewis.
Wow. I mean, how do you not fall after he just said like, "Oh, I'm not ready for the heavyweight division. I'm not. I need to get in better shape before I take a 5-round fight." DC coming off a broken hand, and I'll give you guys some input on that. Like I don't think it's 100%. You know, I mean, he's not really hitting a whole lot with it right now. He's doing light sparring right now. So for him to be getting into this fight, you know, he's obviously going to have to punch in this fight. You got someone like Derrick Lewis, you know, that's been knocking fools out, man. I mean, that fight, his last fight was just epic. He was down. I had him down 2 rounds, you know, so he was losing 2 rounds, came out in the third. I had him losing the third round also, came out vicious punches in the end. The last, I think he finished it with like 12 seconds left, you know, on the clock in the third round. And what a fight. What a damn fight. I mean, I think it's great. I love Derrick Lewis. I want nothing but success for him. I just think that you got to let DC finish his career on the win streak. Obviously, once again, I'm biased. So,
well, DC says that the deal was so good, there was no way he could say no.
Yeah, I mean, they need to look. I'm not. I guess when I read the comments and people keep saying like, I keep trying to compare Bellator to the UFC. I'm not. But what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get people to understand that there's a little bit of pressure right now on the UFC for them not building stars, because DC is going to fight maybe 2 more times. He's going to fight this fight, Brock Lesnar. You may get him for another third Jon Jones fight, depending on the situation with Jon Jones. I'm just letting everyone know that. You have to be real about the situation. The situation is pretty simple and pretty cut and dry. Conor can leave whenever he wants. Khabib right now is offered $15 million for a rematch, and he turned it down because they're continuing to go through with firing Zuba. And I'm telling you right now, he does not care about the money. So all these, I know I'm touching it all on this heavyweight subject, which I'm not supposed to, but I'm just simply saying that all this stuff, they needed him to fight Derrick Lewis. They needed this fight. Sure, they've got other fights that are coming up, you know, but you have to understand though too, you got guys that like Chuck Liddell and Tito Ortiz. Sure, maybe they're not in the big shows anymore, but guess what? They're creating their own show, you know, and if you actually look at that undercard, it's not too bad. Like I saw some of the fights and some of the names on there. It's not too bad. You know what I mean? So I'm getting a little excited for that whole card now after I see it all come together. And you know, and I'll definitely be there to see Chuck fight in person. So those are things that excite me, man. I get excited about those type of things. But this fight itself, of course they paid him a ton of money. They have no stars. You need to use the stars that you do have that are going to bring in numbers. They have no stars. They've waited around for Conor to come back. And so they need, DC's probably their next biggest moneymaker. They need him to fight someone like Derrick Lewis, who now has 1 million followers, all because Joe Rogan said, best Instagram in the game, baby. That lets you know. When Rogan says some shit, bro, that shit is crazy, man.
Crazy, man.
When it's nuts. It's nuts. It's crazy to think. And you hear people talk about him and stroke, you know, Rogan while they're on his show. They stroke him left and right and slurp him left and right because, you know, a lot of notoriety comes to them when they're on his show. You know, I mean, he's awesome, man. I mean, like what he does is great, and this proves it right there. This is just another way of proving it in the MMA world. When he popped off and said, "Bro, you got the best IG in the game," everyone went nuts, dude. They went crazy. 500 followers in like what? Less than 48 hours or a little over
500,000.
500,000 followers in less than 24 hours or some shit like that. It was crazy insane.
At the time of the fight, he was at like 300,000. Now he's at like 1.3 or something like that.
That's
it's absolutely
awesome, man.
nuts.
Just crazy. Now this title fight's going to catapult him to the next level. It's going to bring all this hype and all. In the next 3 weeks, he's going to grow big, huge. That's nuts, man. I mean, realistically, man, we always see people with 1 million followers, like on IG. really, like, they usually have to have big booties, and, like, you know, they're usually.
Some of the
Let's be
UFC
real.
champs are barely at $1 million right now. It's crazy.
Yeah, it's Instagram models, bro. He's now an Instagram model after he took his pants off, bro, because his balls was hot, right? He's an Instagram model now, baby. Yo, he's just gonna walk around with his drawers. It's gonna be great. Look, the fight with DC. Look, DC for sure has every ability. I think he's better than Derrick Lewis on the feet. Doesn't have the same punching power as Derrick Lewis. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Even though DC was able to knock out Stipe, it was the speed that got to his chin. But what DC has that is way better than anything that Derrick Lewis has is his wrestling. I mean, you're talking Olympic level, 2-time Olympian. His wrestling ability to be able to take bigger guys down, especially Derrick Lewis, who will stand in front of him. I would imagine DC will be able to get him out of there. But, I mean, look, we thought for sure that Volkov was going to be able to finish him as well. And when I was looking at that fight, I was like, man, that's a nasty fight. If Volkov uses his push kick and his tip kick, which he was in the beginning of the fight, it just didn't translate into later rounds when he wasn't using it anymore. And so as this fight gets put together with DC and Derrick Lewis, man, I'm excited. We should just call it the DCDL fight, man. I think DCDL fight, man.
DCV hot balls.
Yeah, hot balls. Via hot balls. It's so funny.
A couple of things just to get your opinion on. So Derek said that he believes Stipe deserves a rematch first, right? Then DC says his hand isn't 100% ahead of the fight. And then DC also commented on being disappointed that he's been stripped of the title, but he understands kind of the what UFC needs to do for business.
Okay, let's talk about the title stripping.
Okay.
And I talked about this, I think, the very last podcast we did. They stripped his ass, and he found out on the internet. They didn't even call him.
Isn't that how UFC always does that?
Yeah, but the thing is you don't have a lot of guys that make you like decent pay-per-view numbers right now in the market of everyone stealing pay-per-views. You don't have those guys right now. And you're going to go and do things like that to him and you're going to piss him off. And sure, maybe he's only good for 1 or 2 more fights. But come on, man. Like, just open up the chain. Like, you just open up the chain of communication and just tell him, like, hey, we're going to probably strip you. You seem like you're real comfortable at heavyweight. Obviously you're waiting for the Brock fight. Jon Jones can fight you at heavyweight too if we decide to put that fight together. Jon Jones obviously is expressing some sort of interest in fighting at heavyweight. He's going to fight Gus first. I think Gus beats him. Just my opinion. Jon Jones is able to fight guys and do a lot of work against guys like that because of his length and his reach, which he does not have against Gus. So I think, and I actually thought Gus beat him the first fight. I went back and watched the fight. I was there live in the arena that fight, and I actually had Gus winning that fight. Sure, it was close. You can't be mad at the decision, but I had Gus winning the fight. And I'm not just saying that because I don't like Jon Jones. I'm just saying that because actually at the time when I was in the arena, the crowd was going crazy for Gus to win that fight. It was nuts. And so I think that kind of maybe skewed my decision. But even when I went back and watched it afterwards, I still thought Gus won the fight. But it was a great fight, man. That was definitely a fight that I'm surprised they didn't run it back sooner. But it was the length and the size of Gus that gave Jon Jones the problem. And whereas he's always a lot taller, a lot longer, and lankier than anybody has ever fought, well, he didn't have that against Gus, and I think it worked against him. And he didn't know how to deal with it. You could tell in that fight he was having a hard time dealing with it. But with DC, I mean, as far as him being stripped, I think it was ridiculous that they didn't tell him. At least let him know, like, hey, you know what? You're gonna hold up the division too long. We got to get this thing off you. Got to move it on. We're gonna have Gus and Jones fight. And one thing that he's always been understandable. Like he always understands the situation that the business side is dealing with. And I'm sure he would have worked with them and be like, hey, you know what? My hand's not healthy. I won't be able to fight either division for a while. So the money was so good. They're like, look, we're going to strip you the title, but guess what? We're going to throw you all this cash for the Derrick Lewis fight, and fight this fight to basically get us some more views on this card because we're at MSG and we have no one on that card right now that's going to sell. And I also think that they did that because Dustin Poirier pulled off the fight. He pulled out of the fight. They had nothing. They had nothing anymore. So that being said, they were like, shit, what are we going to do? We have to do something big. You can't just sure, you can have Nate Diaz, but you have to have Nate Diaz versus somebody really good. And who they haven't even matched him up yet, huh?
Well, Nate says, I mean, we're
gonna get into that though.
Yeah,
but I mean,
yeah.
okay? But we'll talk about that in another Punk's opinion. So you're here. This is a Punk's opinion, right?
Yeah.
Yes, it's just my opinion. So if you guys take my opinion for what it's worth, and it is what it is. But I'm just giving you a little bit of the insight. DC's hand is not 100%. DC will stand. I know he will stand because he's been doing a little bit of light contact. He's just got to be careful with the hand. Obviously, it may potentially re-break. I do know that they're looking to get the fight with Brock Lesnar in sometime in February, early February. So that's why he's able to take this fight. If he breaks his hand again, it may be out until like February, March, April. So, which pushes him into his 40th birthday, I believe. And then that says, it's like he was kind of like, hey, I'm going to fight until I'm 40. Look, we all say that. We all lie to each other. He'll fight as long as he can make as much money as he possibly can. So, all that being said, hey, man, like this is going to be a great fight. I'm excited to see the DC and Derrick Lewis. I'm just excited to see, honestly, a lot of the promos. I mean, like people slap together that last press conference thing that they did side by side, talking about, the fried chicken, why how come you don't like DC? Yeah, well, Derrick, I want to know. You tell me too.
That was good.
But, I think it's great. Great that they're both the same. And, Derrick Lewis telling me, hey, man, you too small, man. You come up to, hey, I'm going to knock you out. Well, here's your chance, big boy. Here's your chance.
So Brendan was saying yesterday that he thinks regardless of how Derrick feels about deserving his title or not, he has to take it because he might not get a chance for a long time again. So just because he was saying like he feels like Stipe deserves it. I know he's been super humble, right? But like it's just kind of like, don't you think it's weird that he's kind of saying he doesn't deserve a title shot? It's like,
yeah, it's hard for. Well, I mean,
he's like, bro, like isn't this what you're fighting your whole life for?
Yeah, but I mean, I think it's good, man. He's got so many followers, man. He can start making money off of his social media too. So I mean, and people love him. That's a great thing. It's great to see a big guy like that be so humble, so nice, so funny. I mean, like if I love watching. I love his IG. Like he's got so much cool stuff on there. It's just fun, man. It's fun to be around, and you can't say enough about people like him. It's great to see that not all fighters need to be douches and like act tough and those type of things. I think it's great. I think he's great. He's the type of thing that is great for the sport. I love seeing things like that. And they need something like the UFC and, need somebody like him right now to kind of dial people back and be like, hey, you don't need to be, talking hella trash and doing all these things, to get big fights. And I'm glad he's getting the title shot. I mean, it's sad that it's going to end up being against DC because I don't really see outside of, him catching him beating him. We knew that Volkov was going to stand with him. That was going to be a good fight. And if Derrick Lewis could get a hold of his chin, he could finish anybody. And the same thing can be said for when he fights DC. But I think that we've seen that DC can definitely out wrestle him. And we've seen him do it to other guys that are better wrestlers than Derrick Lewis. So we'll see. It'll be a great fight. I'm excited for the whole fight. I mean, I just want to see it because I like both the guys. When you like both the guys, it's hard to like not get excited about a fight. You know what I mean? So. All right, man. Well, that's my Punk's opinion on Daniel Cormier versus Derrick Lewis coming up November 3rd, the main event at Madison Square Garden in New York City, man. I'm excited. I will be there live for that fight, which will be awesome. And I'll try and maybe do some video stuff on my social media, basically giving you guys the heads up saying like, hey, this is what's going down right now, the week of. All right, my man. Thanks again.
So I think with the heavyweight conversation, we can jump straight into Jon Jones and Gus.
You want to cut it right from here?
Nah, just keep going.
So it's the whole thing?
This is the whole thing.
Oh, I thought you were going to break it up in segments.
No.
Oh, you don't want to just cut it right now?
No. I want to.
All right, guys, you're here with Josh Thompson again. My producer, Dave, didn't give me the feed on what we're doing. So we are here right now with John. We're going to talk with Jon Jones.
Josh doesn't understand podcasting.
Yeah, so I don't understand. We'll just figure it out. Hey, I'll figure it out as I go. So we're going to talk now, Jon Jones and Alexander Gustaffson, and they're set for the rematch at UFC 232. Where's that fight at? It's overseas, right?
No, I don't think it's overseas.
Which?
Let's see, I got it right here.
What's rescheduled? Does it say December 29th? I think it said Las Vegas.
UFC, let's see, upcoming.
That should be I'm excited for that fight. The length, the reach, the range that Gus brings is a different dimension. We saw in the first fight, it was extremely hard for him to, for Jon Jones to deal with. And ultimately, like for me, I felt like he lost the fight. I felt like Jon Jones lost that fight. Sure, it was close. You can read it any way you want, but in my opinion, just my opinion, that's what we're here for. Is the Punk's opinion is in my opinion, I thought he lost. I thought Jon Jones lost the fight. Sure, it was close. Could have went either way, but I was actually live in the arena at that event, and it was a great fight, man. It was amazing. I mean, Gus was still there after a lot of nasty, like spinning elbows, a lot of just different stuff. I think he even got kicked to the head one time. But I mean, Gus did a lot of great things as well. Kept Jon Jones at the edge of the jab. The one thing that Jones is not used to doing, and I don't think you can bring anyone in to really simulate Gustafson, because it's hard to find someone who is as tall as him, with the reach as him, that moves and the mobility as much as him. And in that fight, the one thing that I can say is, remember, Jon Jones took down Daniel Cormier as a 2-time Olympian. He had a hard time getting Gus down. You know, there was a couple times, especially later in the fight as they were fighting, he had a hard time getting Gus down. He couldn't get him down. You know, and that ultimately is kind of what I thought kind of stole him the fight, was he was able to stuff Jones's takedowns, and he was able to do some damage on the feet when they were making the exchange back up to the feet. I was very impressed with Gus. I became a Gus fan after that. Gus has kind of lost me a little bit now, with a little bit of the DC trash talk, but I mean, obviously that bothers me only because I'm DC's teammate and friend. But overall, I mean, I'm being upfront with you guys. You know, like I said, I have a better respect, or I enjoy more when the guys are more like Derrick Lewis. I enjoy watching those kind of guys fight, where you know they're humble in defeat, but then they're super funny and great to be around. Look at that beautiful takedown by Gus there in that one. We're watching clips of it right now. But there was just a great fight between the two of them last time, and I'm super excited for this rematch. This is probably the best. Look at him, Jon Jones chasing Gus around on the takedown. But this is probably the biggest rematch that is slated for them that I would really love to see. There's not really any other rematches they have that I would really enjoy seeing. Yeah, look at that little toe kick to the face. Oh, it's in Vegas, December 23rd?
29th.
Oh, right after Christmas.
It's Max Holloway and Brian Ortega that's over. Oh, it's not overseas, but it's in Canada.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's one.
Man, this is right after a couple days after Christmas, right before New Year's?
Yep, right before New Year's. But they always do that. They always do that. December 30th, December 29th.
I don't know, man.
You don't know?
It just doesn't feel right going to Sin City the day after Christmas. Like a couple days after Christmas.
You feel like Jon Jones is going to pop again?
Yeah, right. You got to be careful, man. And then the other thing people don't realize, USADA can test you, or will test you generally the morning after you win your fight. So for all those guys that like to go out and do a couple rails, or pop a couple mollies, just remember, right after you win your fight, bruh, smoke some weed because you're a little sore. Guess what? They can drug test you, and it's for 24 hours. That's called in-competition training or in-competition testing. So for I want to say it's like until like 10 o'clock the next morning or something like that, they can still test you. Yeah. So be cautious. I want to let all the fighters know, you guys got to be cautious, man. Maybe you shouldn't be doing this stuff anyways, but hey, who am I to judge? Shit, bruh. Shit.
Jon Jones doesn't seem to care anyway. So
yeah, right. I mean, 15 months suspension. He's like, man, if I'm gonna keep getting these slaps on the wrist, shit, I might as well just keep doing what I'm doing. Fuck it.
Hey, so I know you were talking about the Nate and Poirier thing earlier.
Yeah.
So Dustin came out as saying it was a hip injury that forced him out of competition.
Ooh, a hip injury. That's nasty.
Yeah. And then he just tweeted out, small setbacks happen. I'm flying to LA to get a second opinion, and I'll have an idea when I can return. I can't wait to get back in the octagon. Thanks for the support. And then Nate Diaz tells Dana, hey, why don't you just fire me instead of firing Khabib? Because he don't even want to fight anymore. So.
Yeah.
So I don't think they're going to get a Nate fight replaced for 230.
Yeah, I mean, because Kevin Lee's already got matched up against Ali Quinta. So there's that fight. Yeah, so that fight's matched up. So I can't really think outside of that. I know that Nate Diaz will not fight Barboza because he doesn't like to fight guys that leg kick that much. I mean, maybe you could see a Justin Gaethje / Nate Diaz fight. That would be a great fight because Gaethje doesn't really use even though he's got great leg kicks, but he doesn't really use his wrestling at all.
I think Masvidal called him out at 170.
Yeah, but they couldn't make the contract. They couldn't get it to go. but that he would. I don't know if he would take that fight either. You know, Nate wants to fight. Nate looks like he's in phenomenal shape. I saw some videos, you know, of him training. I saw some images too and pictures of him. He looks pretty slimmed down. He looks like he's fit, you know, and
doesn't it bother you though that he just doesn't fight? Like it's like
no, it doesn't bother me at all.
Don't you wish that he would just either shut up and stay out of the conversation?
No, I don't wish that. I don't. I think people like him and his brother make the sport interesting.
The fact that they never fight and all they do is say we're the best.
Yes, because it keeps people intrigued in them, and I enjoy that, you know. And it's no different than what Conor did when he was 2 years out. He still commented on other guys and still said things and like how he'd beat certain guys or he would do, you know. It's like you want to stay relevant, and they stay relevant pretty well. I mean, Nick's been out for so damn long. I mean, it's gotten to the point where like, okay, you're probably never gonna fight again. You know, and if you do fight, we probably won't be. It definitely won't be the same Nick that we saw 3.5 years ago or something like that. You know, whereas Nate, we can watch Nate fight. Nate fought 2 years ago, I think, right, against Conor, and Nate will still, I think, come in and still look good. You know, like I know it's removed for 2 years, but I think Nate's always kind of training. You know, training either, you know, with Gilbert and those guys, or he's, you know, out there training, you know, with his brother. So whatever, man. Like, it is what it is. Like, I enjoy the fact that they were able to make some money. They are able to kind of demand what they want, knowing that the UFC doesn't like to deal with them unless they can put something together that, you know, that will bring attraction to them. They don't want to take any fights. Like a Barboza fight does nothing for them. I agree with them 100%. I think that the fact they have a little bit of power, they need to utilize it against the UFC, which is what they're doing. You know, and I'd love to see him in Gaethje. I'd love to see him in Poirier. I would have loved this in him and Eddie Alvarez. You know, those 3 fights. Those are the fights that I want to see him fight. That was the one thing, and I don't want to bring myself into this too much, but I wanted to say, all I heard when I was with Strikeforce and like when I was fighting Gilbert all the time, because we were the only 2 guys that were continuously winning to always meet at the title. What I didn't like was as soon as I got to the UFC, all I ever heard was, man, I would love to see Josh Thompson fight Anthony Pettis. Man, I would love to see Josh Thompson fight Cowboy Cerrone. God, I would love to see those fights. As soon as I got there, those fights were never offered to me. Yeah. I'm like,
well, except Pettis.
That's all, yeah. But even it was offered and I took it, but then it was gone. They knew what they were doing. I think had he not been the champion, I probably would have ended up fighting him, you know. But then they just didn't. They were never offered to me. It was never fights that were that were there, you know. And so that's what kind of sucks. And I can understand, like with Nate, he's like, fuck that. I know I'm a big enough name now. I'm a big enough draw. In his whole mindset, he's like, I'm fighting who I want, you know, and I'm gonna make sure that it fits my fighting style, and we make for a great fight. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Sticking at lightweight, Alvarez.
Yes.
FC. What's your opinion now?
I think it's great. I mean, I'm sure I would have loved to have seen him come to. Would have loved to have seen him come to Bellator. That would have been great to have him come back home. But in all fairness, they paid him a lot of money, and you got to go. I think in his stage in his career, he's got to go where the money is. And ONE FC is packed with small, tough guys. No one knows. So it sucks for him, right? That he's fighting all these really extremely tough guys that no one knows. You know, a majority of them all are stand-up guys. They're all either from like Evolve or they're all from like Thailand. So they're all going to be tough on the feet. So he's going to have to probably get his wrestling on par because a lot of those guys lack in the jiu-jitsu department. But they're freaking nasty on the feet, you know, and the fact that they have soccer kicks on the ground and, you know, and you can still soccer kick them and kick them in the head on the ground. That's a little dangerous, I think, for someone like him who has a tendency to sometimes get dropped and scrambled. You know, the last thing he needs to do is get caught on the way up, trying to get up from the ground. You know, 1 or 2 nasty knockouts could end your career. And we saw that with TJ Grant, who fought Gray Maynard years ago, was number 1 in line for the title shot, and then turned around and had a concussion during the Gray Maynard fight, and then like in training, basically getting ready for his potential title fight with Anthony Pettis. he knocked himself out in training also, and now he's never been the same. I guess apparently he still has concussion-like symptoms. So that's sad, but it's obviously probably part of the game.
Do you think for him at this point it's just trying to the accolade of getting more titles because he's had the UFC title,
maybe he was the Bellator champ from before. He was the UFC champ. He'll probably be the ONE FC champ. My honest opinion is that they need to bring in more people from the U.S. that have big names if they want to try and stay relevant. I mean, sure, they've got a great organization over there that is doing big things in Asia, but it's definitely not attracting the U.S. crowd, so they needed a big signing like this to stay relevant in the U.S. But for me, I tip my hat to him, man. Make as much money as you can. I'm glad. And I think, and here's every fighter, take a little something from him. Like, that's what I did. And I basically paid attention to what LeBron James and Darrell Revis and those guys did in football and basketball. Like, if you believe in yourself, just test the market. Test the market. Like, there's no reason to re-sign every single time. If you're winning, don't worry about it, man. Like, and if you got a name, one of those companies will pay you. Bellator will pay you. ONE FC will pay you. Just stick your hand out there and go, hey, let's see what it is. If not, UFC will always snatch you back up. They got too many shows. That's what the fighters need to understand. Dude, they've got too many shows every year not to have fighters on their payroll. They have to. They have to keep you guys. Okay? They need to. They need you guys because they have too many shows. They're having a hard time fighting a replacement for Nate Diaz right now. And the 155-pound division is probably the most stacked division there is in the world. And what do you mean that you can't find someone for him to fight? It's the most stacked division in the world. You need to they need fighters. So you can always go back to the UFC. I could have went back to the UFC and I was coming off of a 3-fight losing streak. They were like, yeah, here's what we're willing to pay you. I was like, dude, I'm not fighting you for, that amount of money. When I can get a guaranteed fight purse from Bellator, you're out of your mind. No way. That's the thing. I've never been one, and it started with me at Strikeforce. I've never been one to say, hey, yeah, I want you to pay me half my purse if I lose. F you, man. I don't fight any less harder. You know what? You can do those half purses things to people that have been known to quit. Go right ahead. But don't do that shit to people like myself who have never quit ever in their fights. I've seen guys that, like, in a fight like with me with Tony Ferguson where I got dropped in the second and cut real bad and blood everywhere. I've seen plenty of guys just roll over, give their back, and get a submission. And be like, okay, look, I'm out of here. At least I'm better now. Okay, I'll figure out my next fight. Hell no, man. I was never cut from that cloth. And so if in that case, when promotions would come to me and say, like, yeah, I want to pay you, the 70 and 70. I'm like, sure, maybe I can make 140,000. Great. But the problem is, if I lose, I'm only making 70. No, thank you. No, I'd rather take a guaranteed money at, say, 160 or 150 than take 170. You fight 3 times that year, you're making good money. So I would rather make $450,000 a year than make, potential of making, $30,000 more. No way, man. I want my guaranteed money. If I was a quitter, I would understand the promotion saying that.
Yeah.
But I'm not. And I've proven it time and time again. I've been dropped a couple times in fights and I've come back and won those fights. It's just little things, man. Like, I've had 2 broken ribs in the first round and finished the fight and still came out to win the fight. Like, don't talk to me about, like, half purses. Why? I don't train any less hard depending on who I'm fighting. I always train the same. I train super hard every single time. And all these guys do. I know I would almost guarantee all of them train just as hard. They don't change how they train. I'm just going to do cardio today because I'm only going to make this much to fight this guy. No. They all train hard because they want that. They want to win. There's so much pride involved in this, and I think the promotion's taking advantage when they're paying half your purse, half this. I think everyone should demand. And if you're not going to demand, if it's going to be half and half, it shouldn't be half and half. It should be like 70-30. So at least that person has enough to live until the next fight.
Yep.
If I'm making $100,000, sure, pay me $70,000 and 30 and 30 if I win. What you can also do too to incentivize great fights, and we've talked about this. I talked about this a lot with Strikeforce. Is what they did was instead of giving me a win bonus, they gave me a finishing bonus. So I was heavy on the top end, and I got like another 25,000 finishing bonus. So those are like little things that promotions can do. Sure, give them 70-30 or 60-40. So if you're going to make, 70-30s, I make 70 grand, 30 if I win, then I get like a $15,000 finishing bonus. That's like that back room. Yeah, so then it's like, then it makes you want to fight harder. An extra 15 grand, an extra 20 grand. If I finish you, if I knock you out, if I submit you, that's money, baby. Yeah. Like that incentivizes tough fights. That incentivizes someone to go out there and get the finish.
Yeah. So when it comes to like the whole union conversation, then don't you think that that's the whole point in having competition, like Bellator and ONE FC versus a union that says UFC has to pay so much money? You know what I'm saying? Like, don't you think it's better that we have competition leagues versus?
No, I definitely do think it is better. I don't think it's better than a union, but I still think it's just as good. But then that just goes back to any type of free market industry.
Yeah, having
competition is better than anything than a union can force. And look, and I don't think we'll ever have a union. Want to know why? Because fighters will never stick together. Yeah, all they care about is making as much money as they can just for themselves during their short period of time, instead of worrying about the length of the future and the other guys, which I'm 100% okay with. Okay, I'm okay with it. But what frustrates me the most, just because the guys that have left, like Eddie didn't leave UFC because he was bitter or because he sucked. He left because he wanted to. Phil Davis didn't leave because he was bitter or because he sucked. He was like, I want to say he was in the top 5 rankings. Why would he leave?
Yeah.
Because the money sucked. Like, you can make more money in other organizations. Sure, maybe you won't be as much of a star, apparently, as what you want. But at the end of the day, though, it's your star power doesn't really make you a whole lot of money unless you're a Conor McGregor. Khabib now is probably at that level. But, Chuck Liddell was at that level. But even Tito wasn't really at that level, where it was making him a shitload of money outside of the cage. So when you guys see that, sure, maybe you'll get recognition and notoriety. But guess what? That shit don't pay your bills, man.
Yeah. I just think that, like, as far as the union thing, I just like, and it brings me to one of the next points we're going to talk about, right? And the whole 50 Cent telling Khabib to come over. I know it's not realistic, right? But just like as far as that, right? Like having that competition, like the way Bellator's coming up right now, it just seems like they're just really catching up to the UFC at a competitive level.
Let's not get ahead of ourselves. And look, the reason why, and look, I had an honest discussion with some people, and I'm going to be very upfront and very honest. And sure, maybe it's the Conor McGregor thing that I could talk about and the Khabib thing I could talk about. But you have to remember this. Bellator's getting like 800 to 1,000 people maybe to come to their weigh-ins. Conor McGregor had 10,000 people at the weigh-ins. That's crazy,
one man. No?
Yeah, it's one man. You're right. I agree with you. It's one man. But look, it's a slow process. Like, well, let's not. I'm not comparing the two organizations. What I'm comparing is, and Scott Coker has said it though too, is look, there's plenty of room for two promotions, and now with the signing like this for ONE FC, there's a third promotion that it'll attract some other people. Definitely it will, but not every fighter is going to want to travel to Asia and fight. And I worked for ONE FC doing cage-side commentary with them for a while. But not everyone's going to want to travel to Asia every fight and fight in a country that no one knows their name and no one's going to ever really cheer for them. So not everybody wants that. I haven't really seen any reports of them potentially coming to the U.S. I haven't seen, I do know that there was talks and conversations about them potentially going to Brazil. But that was all I've heard. I mean, they're in Kuala Lumpur, they're in Manila, they're in Jakarta, they're in Beijing, they're in China now. I don't think they've been to Japan yet, but they're in Singapore. I mean, Singapore's their best location. That's their home base. And it's a phenomenal arena. It's a beautiful arena. They do a great job there. It's the best place probably that they have their fights at, that everyone loves to go to. Everything there is super clean, super nice. It's really like, it's great to be like. That was like when we were doing shows there, I was like, all right, this is a great show. I mean, don't get me wrong, the other areas that they went were great too, but each place was different. You know what I mean? But no, I don't really ever see a union happening because these fighters will not stick together. And they don't, and even if you don't shape a union, all you guys have to do is have an agreement that no, I'm not going to fight for any less than this. And no, I'm not going to take 50-50. I'm going to take 60-40 or 70-30, and then bonus me if I finish. Like, have those type of conversations with the organizations. But it doesn't happen, and it's got to happen at the top. It's going to have to take someone like Khabib to set that standard, or Conor McGregor. But Conor doesn't seem interested in any of that. Khabib is just, that's him. The conversation he's having right now about the Zuba firing and, and the potential suspension of Islam or whatever it was. Like, he's like, no, I'm good. Think about a guy who gets offered $15 million and says, no, I'm good.
But don't you think that's more powerful than a union where Khabib and Conor have that independent leverage because of how they're marketing themselves?
But if there was a union involved, the union would get behind them and say, like, look, we're going to strike, kind of. So no fighters would be able to fight then.
Yeah, but then don't you think that sucks for the fighters that want to fight, even if they want to fight for $100,000 instead of $20 million? Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, that fighter needs to feed his family, and now he can't fight, and he can't also go somewhere else and fight.
Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. I understand the whole idea behind the union and how they could affect the people that are on the lower end of the pay scale. Yeah. I do understand that. But and look, and I could care less whether they start a union or not. I'm just being 100% honest with you. I just feel that fighters should you don't really need to form a union. What you need to do is you need to have something put in place like the Ali Act, or you need to have something put in place where you talk and communicate with each other. And you say, like, hey, if we all say our contracts will not say that we're taking 50-50, we're taking 60-40 or 70-30, then that's what it should be. And every fighter should step in and say, no, I'm going to take 70-40. Even if it's less money, go ahead. You can undercut other people, but you should still be heavier in that position. Like, hey, if I'm going to fight for 10 grand, I want $7,000 up front and $3,000 if I win, and maybe negotiate in there, like I said, a fight win bonus. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you could potentially do. What I like is that Eddie Alvarez went out on a limb. He's doing whatever is best for him and his family. And he didn't leave because he was bitter. He left because the money was better. And I just want all the other athletes, every fighter, to look at something like that. Don't just get addicted to the UFC because it's the UFC. Because when you guys are all said and done, okay, you're going to need the money. The UFC is not, and they've proven also with Chuck Liddell and Matt Hughes and how they let them go after they said that they would be lifers in the company. They fired them. And then that's why those guys are out doing whatever. And think about how much money those guys made before.
Yeah. So
let's not talk as if, like, at the end of the day, they're going to all take care of you, because it's not going to happen. You know what I mean? Yep. You're going to need the money is what's going to get you by for the next 40 years of your life. Just remember that. Okay. Let's just say you fight till you're 40. You have 40 more years that you potentially could live that you need money for.
Yep.
Do you have that already in the bank? Do you have enough to live another 40 years? If you don't, then maybe you should think about being a free agent and signing wherever the money is.
Yeah, but there's a lot of endeavors that will also set you up. Like, it's not necessarily.
Yeah, there is. There's also a lot of endeavors that you could actually lose money in too.
Yeah.
So before you say anything like that, just remember that's the problem. Some of these guys, they leave, they're done, they have all this money, and they start trying to invest in certain things, and they lose it all.
Yeah.
Interest rates in banks right now is still at 1%. No one's making any money in the bank. Yeah. The housing market could crash again like it did in 2006 and 8 or whatever. Yeah. That could happen again. You can be ass out. Most of these guys could be upside down in their house.
Yep.
You know what I mean? It's a shitty situation, but you only have a short period of time to make as much money as you possibly can, and majority of these people are still stroking on, and I'm not a UFC hater. I've been in every big organization there has been: Pride, Dream, UFC, Strikeforce, now Bellator, and I worked for ONE FC. Name another bigger company that I haven't worked for. I've worked for all of them.
Yeah.
I'm just speaking, and I'm only speaking this way because I care about the fighters. I care about the fact that, hey, I know and understand what happens after fighting. I'm not saying I'm done, but I'm saying I haven't fought in almost 2 years. Or has it been 2 years?
Yeah, it's been.
Yeah, it's been February. This
February
February will be
last
2
year.
years. Yeah.
Yeah.
So February will be 2 years. You know what I mean? It flies by, man. I feel like I just fought fucking a couple months ago.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It just flies by.
Yeah.
And, you know, it's like right when you're done, where's the money coming from? What are you doing? You know, majority of people open gyms. Well, let me just tell you, I own a gym. It's not easy, man. It's not easy. There's so many gyms out there. So those of you fighters that are thinking about opening gyms, I'm not trying to be a negative Nancy, but man, let me tell you, it ain't easy.
Especially if you're not like a star, like if you're just like if you're just one of the guys that was kind of made it halfway and then
let me stroke you on this though. I'm considered one of the biggest stars to ever fight out of San Jose. It's still not easy.
Yeah.
It's still not easy. People don't just come, and I can tell you this too. It's so funny if you guys read all those memes and all those posts that people write about. When was the last time you saw that one that said? It said something like, "Why do your friends support other people and other companies besides yours?" That shit's true. Okay, Steve Jobs said it the best. He said, "If you want to know who your true friends are, start a business and see who helps you."
Yeah.
Just remember that. You got a guy who's a multi-billionaire, right? Who said that? Like, you want to see who your friends are, your true friends are, start a business and then ask some of them to help you and see which ones do.
You know what's funny when you say that? When us doing the podcast, right? I've got a bunch of people that never listen, never really have anything to say. Like I'll ask for input or feedback, and they'll be like, "Oh, I've not listened to it." Yep. And then as soon as I post that I'm going to Bellator as media, they're like, "Oh, can I come with you and do video?" And I'm like, "Come on, bro."
No. No.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, no, and I hate to be that way, but it's true.
Yeah.
You know, people are like, "Oh yeah, someone told me about your podcast." Oh, I said, "Yeah, did you subscribe?" Oh no, I'm like, it doesn't cost you anything.
Yeah.
You just hit the subscribe button in your YouTube. You just hit the subscribe button on your iTunes, and it's true though. It's crazy.
Yeah, it is. Nuts, man.
I have family that still hasn't subscribed. I'm like, it's not like you got to listen to it every day.
Yeah.
You can turn the notifications off.
Yep.
It's crazy, man. And so the fact that and this is why I'm saying, like, with Eddie, I'm 100% happy for him. 100%. I've always loved watching Eddie fight ever since before when he was with Elite XC. Loved watching him fight. Bodog. I think he was with Bodog first. Loved watching him fight. Elite XC, Bodog, Bellator, all those companies, man. He's a fucking animal. Love it. Never once have I ever seen him give up. He's a fucking gamer.
Yep.
Love watching him. I'm glad. I'm 100% happy for this guy. I'm glad he did this. I'm glad he tested the free market agency. There's reports that he's making over $1 million a fight now in that contract.
I don't know how true those reports were.
Well, the thing is I've worked for that company, and I do know they tend to leak out stuff. They tend to leak things out to let people know that, hey, this guy potentially is getting this. Okay. So there must be some truth to it. But even if he's maybe it's 700, maybe it's 500,000 and 500,000. Either way, that's more than he was making in the UFC.
Yeah.
There's no way way around it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
So I'm happy for him, man. I'm glad. Of course, I would have loved to have seen him come to Bellator. I think it would have been great, but that would have been great. You know, like, to me, that would have been.
He can add another strap to his.
Yeah, right. He can add another belt to it, man.
Yeah.
His fucking trophy shelf is getting cluttered up there, bro. That guy's nasty good. He's nasty good. He's good. Next.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's so much around Khabib right now. It's just crazy. So Khabib says, if you fire my teammates, fire me too.
Yep.
Then 50 Cent says, I'll give you $2 million coming Bellator. Then he calls out Floyd Mayweather. Then Floyd Mayweather tells Showtime and MGM Grand to get the checkbooks out. It's so much craziness and hype around the Khabib thing right now. and none of it involves the UFC except fire me. It's so crazy, man. Yeah,
I mean, we could talk about the Khabib thing for a full hour. Let's just be real. Let's be honest, man. That's like,
and then he turns down the 15 million for Conor rematch as well. Like, there's just so much like talk around what's going on with Khabib right now.
Yeah, my honest opinion is that he's probably not going to fight. That's just my honest opinion. He probably will not fight.
Brendan touched on it yesterday, how you kind of circle back on you saying that Khabib's going to retire, and he's like, it's just crazy, like how he turned down the 15 million rematch because, like, you know, you said it, and like here we are, like potentially facing his retirement.
There was no doubt whether I thought he was going to retire. I thought he would only come back for the GSP fight. It does not, and sure, and I told him that I told Brendan Schaub this. This is only confirmation. He does not care about the money. Dude, he fought on Saturday. Monday morning, he's meeting with Putin.
Yeah.
Dude, money realistically is not an issue, man. And George St. Pierre, most excited by the idea of fight with great champion Khabib. And I think the GSP is now mesmerized by this guy. The fact that he's telling the UFC, nah, I'm good. I don't need the 15 million. That, I think, intrigues him even more to potentially fight Khabib. Because GSP is one of those, he's a very, like, humble. He's a very loyal kind of guy. Like, he's somebody I think that wants to show respect to everyone. And I think this being shown is like, he's like letting him know, like, hey, I'm interested in this fight now because of who you are. It's a lot easier, I guess, for me it was. It was a lot easier for me to fight guys that were respectful. I enjoyed fighting them. I wanted to fight them. I really get along with Benson Henderson. You know, I was excited for that fight. I enjoyed fighting him. You know, I had there was other guys that I had Gilbert Melendez. Like, we trained together before we fought the first time. I was so amped up for those fights, man. Like, you have the utmost respect for that guy at that time. So I was just like, man, this is gonna be a great fight. I may lose. I may get knocked out. I may get submitted. I mean, there was times when I trained with him, he would sub me, and I was like, man, I'm supposed to be way better than you on the ground. But it's a matter of things happen, man. I mean, I remember countless times he swept me in certain positions. I even had to ask him how he did a couple different sweeps. You know, I was like, oh, that was pretty good. You know, like his fighting with Gilbert didn't always translate to like ever really seeing him on the ground a lot because he's such a gamer on the feet. But man, the guy was fucking phenomenal on the ground, spectacular on the ground. You know, I mean, he's decent wrestling too, and was never the easiest guy to take down. It definitely wasn't the easiest guy to hold down. You know, so I think that the mutual respect it intrigues George St. Pierre and potentially fighting him. And not to mention that, to me, has the potential of breaking what they just did with Conor and Khabib.
Yeah.
I think you could see all of Canada watching that fight. I think you could see, obviously, I think the bigger fight would be GSP versus Conor. I'm not going to deny that. Yeah, no doubt. But I think that Khabib and Conor and GSP would beat what they did in pay-per-views for 2.4. You have all of Canada, and I think actually you would love to see with the relationship that the way that the respect and the humbleness between the two guys. I think that a lot of the Russian fans and would end up watching and tuning in and getting the viewerships as well. So I mean, it's crazy. I would love to see that fight, and I've said that before. I think that's the fight to make if you can make it happen. I don't think it will happen. Too much time will pass in the process of figuring out what his suspension is going to be from the commission, from the Nevada State Athletic Commission. And
that was supposed to be released yesterday, like details on it, right? Because it said
the 15th.
Yeah,
so that was the 15th, yeah.
But there was nothing released.
I can't imagine they're going to suspend him very long. You know, I'm hearing 18 months, but I doubt it, just to be honest. The last thing they're going to do is let him go.
Yeah.
They will not cut him. I don't know if they even officially cut Zuba.
No, but they pulled him from the card.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to cut him, dude. Because think about it, if they cut him, and I'm just being real, go ahead and cut him. Bellator will sign him. Cut Islam, they will sign him. Guess who's going to be at every single fight? Khabib. Yeah. He will be there in their corner every single fight.
And then he just won't fight in UFC.
No, he just won't fight in UFC. And every single time he's there, the media is going to be there to talk to him about it for at least 2 years. So that's 2 years of free publicity. And then you're going to sit him next to 50 Cent. You're going to sit him next to to Wiz Khalifa, Demi Lovato. You're going to make him a superstar in Bellator.
Without even fighting.
Without even fighting.
That's madness.
And it's just going to be a big slap in the face to them. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I mean, there is no doubt in my mind. Like, I mean, these stars will come out to hang out with him at the cage side. And every time Islam and every time Zuba fight, guess what? He will be there. And they're going to book those dudes every 3 months.
What if UFC just don't fight them and just kind of hold them hostage?
You can't. If you're saying that, then you have to pay them. So if they're saying they're ready to fight and you don't match them up and fight them, you have to pay them out at the end of their contract. So, I mean, my personal opinion is that, I mean, if they cut Zuba, he won't fight. Khabib's done. I think that's what they're trying to figure out. They're trying to figure out what they're going to do. They're stupid. They should have just had him fight Lobov and just told, like, Khabib that he couldn't, like, he could come, but he couldn't corner.
Yeah.
You know, or if they were smart, get him a skybox. Have him sit in the skybox and he had to stay there. Yeah. Security at the front door. You cannot leave the box.
Yeah.
Okay?
I mean, it feels like they wasted an opportunity to have some more eyes on their own product.
Oh, yeah. For sure. But, I mean, I understand why they're doing it. They're doing it because, you know, the safety of the fans, safety of the people, and, you know, you can't have anyone, you know, you can't have anyone get hurt, like, outside the cage. You know, it's got to stay inside the cage. And I understand why they're doing it. I'm not knocking them for that. I'm not condoning at all what Khabib did. Not for 1 second am I condoning it. But I'm also not condoning what Conor did up on the cage when he hit Abu Bakr on the fence. Like, he threw the punch, man.
I mean...
But Abu Bakr didn't throw the first punch. He threw the first punch.
But wouldn't you be nervous if that's going on and you just watch Khabib jump out and jump on...
The guy was jumping the fence. You got up on the fence too. You guys were face to face and you threw a punch.
Yeah, but with everything going on outside though, with Dylan and Khabib...
No, that's the dumbest thing. That's dumb.
How?
Because how do you? What if he was just up on the fence trying to get to Khabib or yelling at Khabib to get out of there? Hey, stop! And then you threw a punch at him. Well, that just instigated even more.
Wouldn't you be nervous?
No,
that he's
I
right
wouldn't
there
be.
next to you.
Why?
Because Khabib just ran out to assault.
What does that have to do with
Dylan
somebody?
Dennis.
You don't know what somebody else is going to do. By throwing the first punch, you're instigating what he would do. If you and I were face to face on the cage, we didn't like each other. It doesn't mean I should throw the first punch, knowing that you may not throw any punches.
But I mean, if you're in all the commotion that's going on, I feel like
he wasn't in all the commotion. He was on the top of the fence.
But everything that was going on outside, though.
But what does that have to do with what's going on at the top of the fence?
Because it's all part of the same
it doesn't make
situation.
any sense. It doesn't make any sense at all.
I think it makes complete sense.
No, man. You're saying that because
the build up to the
because
fight,
there was a fight in the stands, you and I should fight.
But it's not a fight in the stands. It's your teammates.
But it's because there was a fight somewhere over there. You and I should fight.
But it's your teammates.
Even so, if your friend, you're saying if you saw your friend in the schoolyard fighting out and then you were like kind of just walking that way and you saw one of his friends,
but
you would just stop and turn and start throwing punches.
But if I was walking with my friend and then one of your friends ran up and started fighting my friend, and then you ran up and were standing next to me,
you guys are just standing. But
we probably would start fighting.
Really, I don't know. I don't know if that's. There'd be no reason for me to hit you unless you started trying to help your friend in the fight. Like if you jumped in and you start trying to hit my friend.
But if there was known drama between our different group of friends,
wouldn't make a difference. I still wouldn't go off hitting people unless you were trying to hit my friend.
But
I'd be like, hey, stay back. Let these two dudes fight. I'm sorry, man. I'm a real fighter. Hey, 1-on-1. They're fighting. Let them fight.
I mean,
let them fight, man. That's what grown men do. That's the way it should be. Like, hey, if him and Khabib and Dylan Dennis don't like each other, let them fight.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there'd be no reason for me to hit his friend unless his friend jumped in and started trying to hit my friend. I mean, that's just my take on the whole deal. You know, like if Khabib's down there fighting Dylan Dennis and Conor runs in there and starts hitting, Khabib from the back, of course. And I'm standing right there, for sure I'm running in there trying to hit dudes. Like boom, boom, but I'm also the guy be like, hey, everyone stay back. Let them fight. Let them get at it. Like if Conor's standing right there, like, hey, let them fight. Let them get at it. If Dylan Dennis and Khabib want to fight, let them get at it. Just no one else jump in. I mean, it was a big ruckus. I mean, that's not the scenario of the situation at all. there was more cops and more people and everyone jumping in, and you know.
Yeah.
But
it broke 2.4 million. So
that's what they're saying. Yeah.
Yeah, you haven't given your opinion.
Oh yeah. Okay. So
you predicted 1.4.
Yeah, I predicted 1.4. But I mean, whatever. I was off by $1 million. Not too bad. Shit, bro. I couldn't have been more fucking wrong. Holy snikes, man. That was crazy. I was crazy wrong. Crazy wrong. It was good though. It was. I'm happy for both of them. I think it was great. I think I don't know if maybe the fact that they did no publicity or no press conferences and things like that before. It was great. The buzz was about the fighters. Even when they didn't do press conferences, the buzz was about the fighters, and I thought that's exactly what it should have been. I was happy. I'm extremely happy with the fact that they're, you know. But then what Khabib said is like, hey, keep your money.
Yeah, but he'll get pay-per-view money regardless of his purse, right?
No, but he was saying overall, keep my money.
Yeah.
I mean, like he's like, yeah, whatever. I mean, that's insane. Yeah. That's crazy.
How much do you think he was getting for the pay-per-view?
I mean, I would probably arrange. I mean, I think there's bonuses in there as well. So, from what I understand, somewhere around $3 per pay-per-view buy. So he probably made close to $10 million.
Do you think Conor probably got a bit more than that?
Oh yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
Yep. I think there would probably was some sort of negotiation where he gets a percentage of the sponsors that come in as well. He gets a percentage of, and then plus also being able to have proper whiskey involved in the whole deal. Yeah. So, I mean, overall, I mean, if he was, I don't see a rematch, based off what they're doing right now. You know, I mean, how they're treating Khabib and how they're treating his teammates. I don't see the rematch happening. You know, and if it does happen, it won't happen for years. So,
we can taper it off before Sammy gets here for the other show. Joanna and Shevchenko gets announced. Eubanks gets cancelled, but then she gets rematched with Roxanne Modafferi, and she tells UFC that they're treating it like a circus and they're playing with her life because they're messing with the whole title thing.
Yeah, bottom line is they dicked her over. That's what they did. You know. I mean, they're a mess right now in that whole women's division right there, what they're doing with them. I mean, you might as well just give Shevchenko the title because that's all it sounds like you're trying to do. You know, you're not
Joanna. They put Joanna in, so
yeah. I mean, the thing is, Joanna's way smaller than her.
But it's still a good fight, right? I mean,
yeah, it is. We'll see. I mean, we've seen that Joanna, she has a hard time taking big shots. I mean, maybe it's the weight cut that's getting to her, but I mean, she don't want to get hit by Shevchenko. Shevchenko's nasty. She's big. She's powerful. I think Joanna's gonna look a lot smaller than her. The question is, will she be able to get to her chin? You know, and if she does, I mean, lights could be out. I'm interested in that fight right there. Kat Zingano and Megan Anderson. I'm excited to see that fight. I like Kat, man. Kat's awesome.
Yeah, that 232 card with Jones and Gus is pretty good. It's got Nunes and Cyborg as well.
Who?
Nunes and Cyborg.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that card's gonna have a pretty good lineup.
Yeah.
So the rest of the year's pretty stacked.
Yeah. Yeah, they need to. They need to finish the year strong because the early part of this year wasn't all that great.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
All right, guys, we're here with Josh Thompson, Punk's Opinion. Follow me at The Real Punk on IG, Snapchat, and Twitter. Also, you can hit me at Josh Thompson or Josh the Punk Thompson on Facebook. Hit the like button and follow all of our stuff. Also, check out our YouTube channel there for Sammy and the Punk, at Sammy and the Punk, right, for IG. Hey, at Sammy and the Punk for IG and Twitter.
Yep.
And also follow us on Facebook as well at Sammy and the Punk. All right, well, hey, this is a quick Punk's Opinion over the last couple of little things. We will do more later this afternoon with some talks.